Hi and welcome to the Happiness Safari podcast. My name is Nadine. I'm a Bikram yoga travel teacher and happiness life coach, and I help people to find emotional freedom and feel at home wherever in the world they are, because all the answers are already inside of you. The Happiness Safari podcast is here to inspire you to live a happier life for yourself and the people around you. Today on the podcast, I speak to Matt from Canada. He is a strategic intervention life coach, and we train together under Tony Robbins and Madanes. He brings to his coaching a rich history of philosophy, spirituality, and presence to help clients realize a fuller state of being. Matt is a Reiki Master and NLP practitioner and integrates meditation, trance, and other techniques that provide powerful transformations for clients looking to get unstuck and experience more joy, love, and possibility in their lives. Matt and I speak about the 6 human needs and the ways you can fulfill them. He shares how he connects with his spiritual presence and intuition and how he allowed his creativity to come through. We also speak about Reiki, NLP, and why he thinks happiness is a choice. He also shares a super short happiness meditation where you tune into the energy of happiness. From today's episode, you will learn how to allow yourself to be present, how to follow your intuition, how to tune into the energy of happiness, how to become more aware, how to connect with your spiritual presence, how to let your creativity come through, how to use your imagination, how to find your purpose, how to allow yourself to feel happy without accomplishing anything, and what the 6 human needs are. I hope you have a nice cup of tea and you sit somewhere comfortably so you can fully enjoy this episode. Hi and welcome everybody to the Happiness Safari podcast. And today I'm speaking to Matthew from Canada. So happy to have you today. How are you?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting. We had a little chat before, so I know what you do. But if you would like to share with the listeners who you are and what is it what you do?
Sure. So my name is Matt Corlett, and I live in Canada. Currently, I am a coach. To be honest, I'm not exactly enthusiastic about the word coach, but it's something that people can understand right away. And the kind of coaching that I first started getting involved in, it was through Tony Robbins and Madanes, where I met you, Nadine, through our study groups, right? And but prior to that, early on in my life, in my 20s, I had spiritual mentors, and I had studied Reiki and a type of massage, an energy-based kind of massage. And I'd spent quite a few years kind of in the healing arts, and was interested in growing more into business. So I spent, maybe 20 years after that, kind of focusing more on business that I operate in the Canadian Rockies and tourism. But I always felt this yearning to work on a deeper spiritual level, in a more meaningful way with people. And as operating a business, I had a ton of opportunity to mentor people, to get mentoring, to get coaching, like different kinds of coaching. You'd be surprised. A lot of people think, well, business coaching is about like how to manage the budgets or how to, make sure your profit and loss statement is operating properly. But it's so much more than that. It's very foundational. I like to say it can shake you to the core, because you really have to confront the core beliefs and values that you have. Everywhere you go, there you are, so in business, it's not separate from your personal life. Your personality is there. And sometimes you're behind this wall where you can't see the other side of, and you need a facilitator. You need someone to help you pull yourself out of yourself in a way and see things in a new way, and in a way that's respectful and loving for you, and also in a way that puts you in contact with a greater sense of being. And so as I had all this opportunity, whether it's funny, Nadine, one of the things I loved was complaints. Like if there was a complaint at the front desk of the hotel, for the first time, I probably crapped my pants twice, just so scared. But after I got used to it and really understood what was happening, I started to find ways where I could communicate with people in a very authentic and beautiful, loving way that wasn't about like, you guys ripped me off and all the feelings of suspicion that can happen in a consumer environment. I bought something, they're trying to rip me off, this isn't worth the value or whatever, right? And actually getting to the truth of the matter. And I had all these amazing, beautiful experiences. So I always had this real love and enthusiasm. And what lit my spirit up was connecting with people in a very beautiful, open way that got to a deeper truth of what was going on. And so fast forward to kind of the beginning, right before COVID, I felt like I wasn't growing. I really felt stagnant. I felt stuck. I wasn't living life the way I wanted to. I was spending a lot of time away from my two boys. I have a 13 and a 10-year-old and my wife. And, almost half the year I would see them very little. And then the other half of the year I'd see them a lot, but I wasn't happy. And I knew that my own thinking around my problem was the problem. And I was at, I don't know if you know Grant Cardone. He's a famous entrepreneur, real estate investor, sales trainer. I had done some sales training with him many years ago as part of my personal development in business. And while he seems obnoxious on the outside, he's quite a spiritual person, a very interesting thinker. Anyway, I was at his conference and I brought a friend along that I thought would benefit from it. And while we were there, I just said, I feel like I got a heavy coat on, and it's that business. I put on that heavy coat of that business and I'm really depressed. I don't feel good, and it's so interesting because people on the outside of me, maybe some friends, they'd be like, oh, you're doing so well. Look at you're operating that business, blah, blah, blah. It didn't mean anything. When you hit that point in your life where people compliment you, but you're like, what? So what? Because I felt miserable. And so I signed up for a course out of the Growth Con that it was called Stages, and it was about bringing your message to audiences, and it didn't quite connect. So I refunded it and I found Dean Graciosi and Tony Robbins. And I did something called the Knowledge Broker Blueprint. And that was more interesting to me. And again, when I really realized why, it was all of Tony's segments where he helped connect me with a greater sense of my own being, something aspirational or inspirational that in my daily life, I wasn't allowing myself to connect with. And I did a couple of online classes based off the Knowledge Broker Blueprint. And I had great response. But what really interested me about what I was teaching was actually the deeper psychological and spiritual awarenesses that were possible in what seemed like mundane experiences. So one of the participants who had studied Tony Robbins and Chloe Madanes training, she said, you should go take that course. You would love it. And so I started. And as I was doing this life coaching program, within a couple of months, I started just on Facebook posting what I really cared about, what I loved, and I started picking up clients. So that's how my journey into coaching, like as putting myself out there as a coach, started. And since then, while I was really focused on the tools that we learned from Tony Robbins and Chloe, they're very, very powerful tools, but they are tools. And there's more tools available. But what that helped me do was to see how it's possible to facilitate other people to unlock their own potential. And as I was doing it more, I allowed my intuition to come forward more. As my own nervousness subsided and my commitment to service and my love of seeing other people expand and grow also grew, I allowed more of my intuitive faculties and my spiritual mentorship from past mentors and current mentors to really start to sink in more. And I started studying NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And at the same time, I realized that I also have the ability to feel and sense say, fields of consciousness that are greater than what the analytical mind is used to. So a lot of coaching is analytical mind. You've done therapy, I've done therapy, I've been to therapy, it didn't work, a little bit worked, I got some takeaways, but there wasn't the breakthrough. And I think a lot of it was analytical mind. Logically and intellectually, I understood things, but I wasn't having an internal feelingness, like a sort of feeling, a sense that actually changed me so much that I could never turn back. My greatest transformations came in deeply spiritual, very symbolic or mystical kind of experiences. So in the past year, I've allowed more of my spiritual side to be present in my coaching, so that sometimes what I'm doing when someone comes to me is we end up doing a guided visualization or meditation that's really channeled. I don't plan it. I don't know where it comes from. It comes to me and it comes through me. And I'm kind of along for the journey. And it might sound a bit funny, but what I realized, like from my training, what's happening in a lot of those sessions is people are having an opportunity to represent parts of themselves and feel them on a deeper level, where the analytical mind is calmed down and we're really impacting the subconscious mind more. And so we'd have these experiences, and then after, and it was funny, like one of them was about dating, right? Like one of the first ones where I really let loose was she was like, oh, I don't know about my dating profile and all this kind of stuff. And she wanted to obviously, have a relationship with somebody. And she was really focused on her dating profile. I picked up on a whole bunch of different energy around that. We did a very kind of beautiful, mystical journey that, again, I couldn't plan in a million years, Nadine. It just kind of came through me. And it was so beautiful and so stunning that even I was like, wow, that was incredible. And within days, her whole attitude towards her dating had changed significantly. And she had seen how she was compromising some of her key values because she thought she had to in order to make other people comfortable. And once she had this kind of more subconscious change, that behavior no longer made sense to her and she stopped doing it. And then things opened up for her. So so what I'm doing now is, I would say, not everyone connects with the word spiritual, but what I'm doing now is I'm allowing more of a mystical spiritual experience into my coaching, so that the clients I'm working with have connect to a greater sense of their inner being. And what I'm finding is that, and I do this every day in meditation, I'm always seeking to create or to tap into the creative side of me, the side of me that's beyond my name, Matt, where I live, the family I have, the habits I have, the immediate surroundings of my environment and conditions, and to go to a place where I feel connected to a kind of an infinite presence, and tuning into feelings like love or joy or compassion, but also not denying maybe other feelings I have, like frustration or anger or irritation, but allowing more of me instead of less of me, say. And so that's how I'm working with people now. And all of my clients are word of mouth. I'd started putting a website together. I had one for a little while, and then I went to change it, and I haven't had a website since. So people find me on Instagram or Facebook, basically.
Nice. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this. And I think what you said at the start, speaking about business and, what people have expectations when it comes to business. I think Tony Robbins actually says that business is a spiritual game, right? Yeah. And again, there is this word spirituality, but I guess what it means is really that kind of in business, we are living our true selves, like really expressing who we truly are, and no matter what that is. And I feel like nowadays, so many people are actually not doing it or not connected, or we're thinking, we have to do something to actually earn money, like what you did before. Like you were like, okay, but just not happy, you were away from your family and you were like doing something, but it wasn't really fulfilling you. So I think when we are actually in that situation where we are in a job and we're just not happy, but we have everything, and people are like, yeah, well, why are you not happy? You said people are congratulating you for your successes, but you just don't really feel it. I think that's when something like our soul is calling us and saying, hey, you know, there's something else like you're here to do. And I think when we found this, so I kind of experienced that myself, what you describe, things come through you. Creativity kind of comes out you. Like you have, you know, ideas and you have something like you want to give, and it's different than sitting somewhere with your, you call it analytical mind, and thinking about what you could do next. I think it's beautiful that you found it and that you're also helping your clients to find that. Because I think when we all would find our true purpose and what we're really here for, because I really believe we all have this gift inside of us, what needs to be expressed, right? Which has to come out. And if everybody would actually seek for that, then I think we would all be much happier, much more fulfilled, and also, I guess, having a greater sense of purpose, helping each other more, being more in our center, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting too, you know, just listening to you speak there. And I don't know about you, but there's also a potential to kind of get really excited about change and to become like a change junkie almost, right? And, you know, sometimes we call it shiny object syndrome. You know, so like, oh, I'm going to take that course. I'm going to do that. And we're learning. And there kind of comes a point sometimes where, for me at least, because I love to learn, I love reading, I love studying. For me, like in terms of, you're familiar with Tony Robbins' concept of the 6 human needs. It's a very powerful tool. You know, what kind of needs are you meeting by your behavior, right? And when I think about learning, I hit all 6, like really, really powerfully. It's such a beautiful thing for me, right? But at the same time, I realized that, and this was early on in my coaching journey, I was kind of visualizing in meditation that I was seeking outside of myself for an answer, for what's going to give me the answer, what's going to give me the answer, what's going to give me the answer. And I was pulling all of these things in, and I was getting really fragmented. And I just for a moment brought my awareness, and this is what I mean by representational. Like all of this is happening in imagination, and imagination is so powerful. And, you know, I'm a fan of the writer Neville Goddard, the mystic writer Neville Goddard. And, you know, what Neville says is that actually everything's imaginal. We just don't remember that the reality we're living is the result of imagination. And so there I am in meditation, and I'm visualizing sort of a sphere that I'm in, and I'm reaching out and grabbing things outside of myself and pulling them in, seeking for answers. And I just paused for a moment and just allowed myself to feel my inner being, just a sense of presence and quietness within me. And then I saw a different kind of concept, which was, instead of seeking, expressing and expanding, finding new ways to explore the life force energy in me through these different channels. And this whole new kind of creative, excited joy kind of came through. Instead of like, oh, I hope this is the right answer. I hope this is the right answer. Is this going to fix me? Is this going to fix me? It was more like, it's not about fixing. It's about exploring and expanding and learning and growing and taking joy in the creative acts that we've already been involved in. I mean, one of the most beautiful things is just awareness. True. You know, like bringing awareness to your own thoughts. Oh my goodness. I think that thought a lot.
I love what you said actually about everything which is around us was imagination. So, I mean, I love to think about, for example, if you look at a lamp and you think about light, and then you think there was someone sitting there and thinking, okay, I want to like create electricity. And the same with like cars. I mean, cars are just here because somebody wanted to build a car, and like there must be a better way. Same as like a plane. Like, okay, we want to fly, so create that. And it's actually crazy because I feel we often forget like what we're actually capable of. And that we can actually live whatever we want to have that in our lives. Like if we are actually connecting, I guess, with ourselves, and then like living our creativity and using our imagination and visualization to manifest that, actually, because that's all what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that the whole world of manifestation is very, very interesting place to play in too. You know, I worked with Bob Proctor for a while, and I used to be a sort of worked on the sales side of a Bob Proctor coach. Her name's Mariko Fujimara in Vancouver. She's amazing. And my training under her was instrumental in me being able to launch as a coach. You know, within 2 months, I had clients. And a lot of that was kind of about that use of imagination. There's the physical things, right? Like the phones, the fact that right now I'm looking at a computer screen. It's very thin. And, you know, your image is magically there, and I can hear your voice, and you're in Peru, and I don't know how many thousands, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers away from me. And we're able to organize all this, and people all over the world can watch our interview today. And all of that did begin in the mind of people. You know, before it existed in physical reality, it existed in imagination. And it's interesting because a lot of times, like when I'm working with clients, they're like, I don't have an imagination. I'm not creative. And I'm like, okay, well, do you worry? And they're like, yeah. Okay, well, so worrying, is any of that stuff true right now? Most of it's not. So you're using your imagination to imagine things happening that aren't happening. So your imagination is very powerful. You're just putting it to a use that creates anxiety or concern in you. And they start to see, oh my God, yeah, I actually do use it. It's kind of funny, right? Most people laugh when they first hear it. But there's more than that, because there is a fundamental, and this will come more from my Buddhist, not that I was trained, but my studies in Buddhism. You know, there's a fundamental kind of illusion at the base of everything, that there's a concrete I, that there's a me that actually exists, and it's separate from the outside world. And the part of imagination is to realize that, like, let's take a very kind of scientific look at things. The world's coming at us through our senses at 2 million bytes a second. Through sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and hearing, whatever I missed. So the 5 senses, 2 million bytes a second coming at us. Our conscious mind is capable of focusing on and crunching 139 bytes a second. That means 1,999,800 and whatever, 30 bytes a second, you don't notice. You know, so when we're thinking like, oh my God, this is my problem, this is how things are, oh, I'm so screwed, blah, 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 we must admit that we can't see everything as it really is. But the way that we're focusing is creating a reality for us, and that there is a potential to focus differently. And, you know, obviously for someone listening, they're like, oh, it's not like that, because you have feelings and you don't know how to focus on something different. And, you know, you feel compelled to look at things the same way, or you think they are that way. You're convinced that is reality. And that's where working with a coach is awesome, is because they help you develop ways to liberate yourself from like the way that you're thinking. They open doors and opportunities for you to feel, think, perceive, and experience something greater than your imagination was allowing you to at that moment. And often part of that is you discover all the benefits of your supposedly bad or negative habits, and you see how powerfully they've been serving you. And instead of hating them and resisting them, you can appreciate them, have compassion and forgiveness for yourself, and really love them, and understand that there's more available to you. Now that you understand how powerfully they serve you, you can find alternatives. So, you know, this is for me the deeper work of imagination. Don't get me wrong. I love that people can invent such beautiful articles like this, right? But I really, really love how your whole life can change without any circumstances in your life changing first.
Yeah, very true.
You know, it's profound.
And have you used that yourself, that you changed your life in a kind of drastic way, or that you visualized something? And can you give us an example?
Well, sure. So I'll start with like the first maybe kind of experiences I had with it in my 20s. In my 20s, I was really depressed. I didn't think I'd live past 30. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 7. And I was really pissed. I was really angry. I hated that I had diabetes. I didn't know, but I was deeply ashamed. I thought God hated me. I had a series of crises, health, relationship, life kind of crises. And I was kind of at that point where nothing worked, and I wanted to die. And I just couldn't see any way out of it. And the beautiful thing about that kind of, when you hit that very deep level of depravity, of there's almost a surrender in it. You stop fighting, and I was walking along the street and I saw this, weird shop with gems hanging in it, and it said something about natural treatment. And I went in there and I said, an Australian woman was there, and I was living with Australians at the time. I actually studied in Australia after that for 3 years. But she said, how can I help? And I said, can you cure my diabetes? I was so fucking angry. I just remember just spitting it out. And she kind of smiled at me and she said, well, maybe. And she became my first mentor. She's my Reiki Master. So I'm also a Reiki Master. I don't talk about that a lot because I love Reiki energy and I love using it and I love tuning into it. But for me, it's changed a lot. And I don't want to teach people Reiki or induct people into Reiki. There's other Reiki Masters that do that. I do use it. I use it on me. I use it on my family. I use it with clients once in a while as well. But it's not my primary. It's not my primary thing. So, but during my passage there, so I was convinced that, having type 1 diabetes was who I was, and that I was doomed. And this meant that karmically I had done something wrong in a past life and I was being punished. And, really life was holding up a sign to me saying, stop, you can't go past here, you should die. And it was just because, some people had invented insulin that I was allowed to live and I shouldn't be alive. And all of these thoughts were constantly going through me, but I believed those thoughts were true. And they all had emotional outcomes. And I was identified as those emotions. I'm depressed, I'm lonely, I'm isolated, God hates me, I'm miserable. I believed all those things were true, that was the totality of my being. And through very illogical or non-intuitive experiences, I was introduced to another part of myself. And my Reiki master unlocked my spiritual potential that I'd always felt. There was do you know what I mean? There was always a quieter voice in me that could see things and perceive things and feel things and sense things. And it was magical. And other people could see it once in a while too, but I was so afraid of it, I hardly ever let it out. And I created this other personality crust kind of over it that prevented me from ever taking responsibility for it, growing it, really learning more about it, falling in love with myself. And so she, through these really powerful Reiki experiences and teaching, I became like her student, learning a massage from her too. And then she introduced me to my next mentor. But it was, I dramatically actually shifted the hormonal balances in my body. So I, as a type 1 diabetic, I had lots of tests done every year. And I was having some other physical complications. And from working on things that wasn't about the herbs I was taking or the diet I was having or the amount of exercise or the dosage of insulin, it wasn't any of that. It was actually changing the beliefs I had, changed my physical expression in life. And all of my hormonal balances came back into alignment. And when that happened, it's so funny, right? We are physical beings in a way, and we express and live physically. But that was like, holy shit, this is real. This is something really profound. So that was my kind of first experience of actually having a physical change as the result of spiritual work. And, moving forward, I've just had so many experiences where I'm in a situation where maybe I'm in a bit of a blame game, like, oh, that person makes me feel this person makes me feel that. I can't ever say this. I can't ever do that. And, just feeling that feeling of being stuck. Like, the business requires that I work 18 hours a day, 6 months a year. I can't see my family. I'm too busy. These are all thoughts that I held and believed were true. And it wasn't until I understood all the needs I was meeting in that behavior, in those thoughts, and also the kind of subconscious programming that those thoughts were originally related to, that there was still feelings of I don't deserve, that I'm in debt, that I'm less than, and that they were finding their indulgence through this behavior and these beliefs. So without anything changing at all, except my own internal beliefs about myself, my potential, what I loved, and that it was not only safe, but beautiful and wonderful for me to allow myself to develop my gifts more, to allow myself to be present more, to allow myself to feel and be honest about things even more, that I was able to dramatically change that part of the business and launch as a coach.
Wow.
So, it reminds me about what you said when we were just chatting before we got on. It's not like it ever ends. You know what I mean? Like, there's always a new facet to explore and expand. There's something even deeper or more wonderful to experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think, thank you so much for sharing. There's something very inspiring in your story that you said you healed like a physical condition through like spirituality. And you also said that you had this voice in your head. And I think we all know that, and we all have this voice. And if I know from personal experience, when you're depressed, you have that, like, that voice is very loud and very annoying and is not really stopping, and you identify so much with it. And then you said you had this other voice, which was a little bit quieter. And I believe we all have that as well. And that's our intuition, which we have to connect more and like listen to. But it's so hard if we hear, and maybe the other voice is like the ego, telling us all these things, but they're actually not true. So to find something to disconnect from that voice. Firstly, also you said awareness, being aware that it's not true. I think that's the first essence. So if you're listening and, you're wondering, like, what's the one thing I should take away from this? I feel like it's really your thoughts and facts. And whatever you're hearing is something you can change, and you can like decide if you become more aware. And then there are different tools. So you mentioned Reiki. I will put something in the show notes so people can look it up, so we don't get into this too much. And also, meditation, and and also you don't have to do it yourself. Like, you can work with someone, you can have somebody to help you, to guide you through these experiences and this change, right?
Yeah.
And Matt, just because you're the first one mentioning it, and because we both studied under Tony Robbins, would you quickly maybe just explain the concept of the 6 human needs?
Yeah, sure. Before I do that, I kind of feel like called just to say a couple of things. So, the interesting thing about awareness is, some people will say something like, and I've done this, I like saying I instead of people or they or you, but I've done this where I'm like, oh, I'm really aware of what my fucking problem is. That's not awareness, that's judgment. And so I call it the wedge. It's kind of a wedge that starts to separate you from your thoughts, you from the way you feel. And awareness is just bringing your attention to your thinking, to your feelings without judgment. And put it this way, like, I'm thinking about, I think I suck. Well, bringing awareness to it isn't like, okay, I had the thought I suck. What does that mean? Oh, I'm terrible at making money. I don't know how to do it, and I feel really confused about it. And I'm always thinking about my grandfather, when I think about it, because he lost all his money in the Depression, And he ended up committing suicide. Like, I mean, bring your attention to it. Really feel all the different parts that are pulling in, and you start to feel and sense all the connections to your identity and the people and environment and everything. Bringing your attention to it allows you to explore and see things more fully without judging or hating or needing to get away from it. Because a lot of times, like, we're like, I got to change this part of me. I got to change this part of me. I got to change this part of me. And it's like, a horse pulling against like it's tied up by the neck, and the rope is attached to, say, a fence, and it's pulling and pulling and pulling. Well, all of its awareness is on the rope and the knot getting tighter on its neck, and it's on the tension of the rope, and it can't see or feel anything else but that thing. And sometimes you just need to take a big step backwards and stop pulling away. Again, and this will tie into the needs, there's a higher intent of all behavior. Those thoughts were formed, to provide you with something, to prevent something bad from happening, or to protect you from something. They're there to serve you. And it's part of our job of like unraveling and learning and growing, and expanding, to really understand that more. And so the 6 human needs are a nice way to help us do that, right? So the 6 human needs, there's kind of 4 base needs. Safety or security, predictability might be another way of talking about that. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you like a real example after to kind of show how these things might work. Variety, because, if things are the same and predictable all the time, we don't grow, and we're not really fond of that. We want to grow. We want to experience something new, be excited, at least pleasantly excited. We don't always like being excited or surprised, right? Then there's significance. And I like the need of significance, because a lot of people in the coaching world might say, oh, if you're driven by significance, that's a problem. It's your ego. But significance just means the need to feel special, to feel desired, to feel wanted, to feel loved, to feel unique, to feel like you've got something valuable to give. And actually, the drive for significance can help you achieve levels of excellence that nothing else can. But it obviously, all of these things, and I'll talk about this in a sec, can be detrimental to you. Then there's love and connection. We all have a need for love and connection. And Tony likes to say, look, we all want love, but most of us settle for connection. The journey of love with other people, with one another, is, I think, a great place of where spiritual growth and development can happen, because that's where you're starting to really unravel some core beliefs and paradigms that are stored up in your subconscious about rules and regulations, about what must happen for you to know someone loves you, or that it's safe for you to love. So there's part of the human needs is, no matter what, we're all meeting our human needs daily. And if we're conscious of it or not conscious, it doesn't matter. We're still seeking to meet our human needs every day. The last 2 are growth and contribution. So growth, obviously, the feeling of expanding, growing, learning, and contribution that you're making, that you're contributing to the world around you. And those 2 goals, or those 2 needs, are usually called the more spiritual needs. They're the ones that that will really excel and propel us forward in our expanse as a human being, or a being in the world. So the neat thing about the human needs is we're always meeting these human needs, and we meet them in low-level ways, medium-level ways, or high-level ways. Low-level ways means it's shitty for you and probably crappy for the people around you. Medium ways, it's not exactly good, but it's not bad. Who cares? And then good ways, it's really empowering for you, and it's benefiting the people around you. So examples. I like this example. Let me tell you about, I was mentioning this before, a way that I meet my 6 human needs in a very powerful way. Studying and learning things about, like, whether it's neuro-linguistic programming, how to work with the subconscious mind, or it's learning a new technique in meditation, or it's learning about something that's like very technical in relationship coaching, how to help people trust the higher intent of one another so they can make a heart connection again. So when I'm learning, I'm meeting my need for certainty. Now that sounds kind of weird because I'm learning new stuff, but actually the more I learn and the more I understand, the more I feel I have the ability to control pleasure and pain. to improve my relationship with my wife and my kids, to improve my relationship with my dad, my mom, my sisters, and my family, to improve my relationships with other people. So I'm growing a certainty by understanding, learning, and implementing more in my life. I'm also hitting my need for variety because I'm learning something new. I'm like, holy shit. Sometimes I have breakthroughs, like reading a book. There's a couple of books. I'll read one page 100 times. I will read it every day over and over and over, because every time I read it, something new clicks, something new kind of moves me, and I feel this something changing, right? So there's this empowering kind of newness that comes with it too. So I hit my need for variety. What about significance? Hell yes, because I'm learning all this stuff and I've always got ideas. I got something I can add. I can contribute something powerfully. I can come up with a new idea or think things from different angles. And people are like, wow, in the business community that I was really involved in, people always saw me as a thought leader. Well, that's because I read a whole bunch and I studied all the time. They weren't necessarily my ideas, right? But I could apply them to situations. Love and connection. Well, definitely it brought me connection, because I had new ways to connect with people, right? And I had new ways to understand love. And of course, I'm growing because I'm growing as a person, and I'm making a contribution to the people around me. Now, as an opposition, you could go, well, or not opposition, but as a contrast, let's say, you could say, what about I'm addicted to, let's choose a moderate one. I can't stop eating peanut butter and dark chocolate. Okay, like I have a habit for peanut butter and dark chocolate. Okay, well, are you meeting your need for certainty? Yeah, it's pure pleasure. It's like that dark, rich chocolate. It's fatty, and then you're adding this nutty fatness. It's got some sweetness in it. It's like, oh, so good. So I'm meeting my need for certainty because I know I'm going to feel pleasure every time I do it, right? Yeah. Is it a high, medium, or low level way? Well, if I do too much of it, it's going to be low level because it's going to be bad for my health. And it's not really serving other people around me if it's bad for my health. Am I getting my need for variety met by it? Absolutely not. And what about my need for significance? Debatable, right? I might actually feel significant because I'm taking the time out to do it for myself. And I'm feeling like I deserve it. So I'm making up like, oh, I worked hard today. I worked out. I did this stuff. I helped these people. So I deserve it. We can tell ourselves we deserve a treat, right? It is a kind of self-love. And maybe actually it connects me to other people that really like dark chocolate, right? So because dark chocolate lovers, not everyone likes dark chocolate. So I can feel a kind of connection there. How is my relationship meeting my need for certainty on a scale of 1 to 10? How is it meeting my need for variety, for significance, for growth and contribution? Or flip it and say, how am I meeting my partner's needs in this relationship? Do I meet their need for safety? How am I meeting their need for variety or for significance, for love and connection? And so it's a way of exploring how you're meeting your needs, and in relationships, whether it's personal, intimate relationship, friendship, parent relationship, work relationship, you can start to look at how you're meeting other people's needs, or the relationships meeting needs for everybody in it. You can learn a ton and start to understand. I think one of the beautiful things about the human needs, just to sum that up, is once you start realizing some of the things you do to meet needs that aren't necessarily great, right? And then you see, for example, I worked with a couple of clients that were older and they were living together. They were brothers. And one of them was always having temper tantrums. And he was needing his need for significance and connection by having temper tantrums. And so once he really saw that, then he could own the real feeling underneath, which is that he desired connection so bad. And he wanted to feel like he was making a contribution too, because the other brother had more money and was paying all the bills kind of thing. So there was a conflict there. So the real beautiful growth happened when he could feel and understand why he was doing that, because he couldn't figure it out. He was just compelled. All of a sudden he'd be having a temper tantrum, breaking something, right? So by understanding that, and understanding that underneath he had a greater desire, which was more intimacy with his brother, acknowledgement from his brother, the feeling of contribution with his brother, then he could meet that need in a brand new way. And the other beautiful thing is you can look at someone when you look at them through the 6 human needs, and you can say, yeah, sometimes I meet my needs in low level ways too. Me too. And it can really help you develop a sense of compassion, not only for yourself, but for others as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you explained that very, very well. And I think
There's a ton there, so it's hard to condense. But I hope that makes sense for listeners.
No, definitely. And I think there's a free 6 human needs test online available. So I put that in the show notes as well. So yeah, but thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge as well. And your experience. At the end of the podcast, I always ask the same 3 questions. And number 1 is, what does happiness mean to you?
Well, first of all, happiness is a state of being. But right now, if I just want to invite everyone just to close their eyes for a moment and just to notice how pleasant the mental stimulation is, and then just to let that relax and just to allow yourself, just follow these words. Just sense and feel the energy of happiness. It's not hard. Allow yourself to tune in to the vibration of happiness. I feel it right in my heart, and it's giddy, it's bright, it's sparkly, and it lifts me. So happiness is an energy. Happiness is a vibration, a frequency, and it's something that we can tune into and that we can own, that we can bring into our body. We can ground into our physical being. What does it feel like to just allow your body to feel the energy of happiness for no reason at all? So for me, happiness is an energy.
Thank you.
It's a frequency, and it's something that you can feel at will. Yeah. If you can allow your analytical mind to quiet and the mental junk to quiet, and just to allow yourself to sense and feel. So I would say that's happiness.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you very much. That worked with me, so I hope you did it.
Me too. I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as I did.
And what do you do to be happy?
Okay. Well, that's where I can get caught up in struggle and conflict, right? Like, it's so easy to do this. I'm not happy. Well, why aren't I happy? I'm not happy because we were talking about I was talking about a website earlier, right? Well, I'm not happy because I don't have my website done. I don't know how to tell people what I do clearly, because what I do is kind of weird. And, until that gets done, I'm not going to be happy. So we always put conditions on happiness. So what do I do to be happy? I guess I feel happiest when I feel a sense of compassion and forgiveness towards myself and others, and that I'm allowing myself to explore, make mistakes, have some fun. I'm allowing myself to express myself. I'm breaking down boundaries that are preventing me from feeling flow in my life. And I'm choosing happiness. So the best way, and this is the greatest advice for me today, to be honest, is, really, you hear these kind of cliche things like happiness is a choice. And usually when you hear that, you're in a bad mood and you want to punch that person in the face, right? but it kind of is a choice. And so I guess what I do to make me, or to bring more happiness into my life is I start to think and focus on more pleasurable, happy things. And I put that 139 bytes of focus on things that are expansive, enjoyable, beneficial, wonderful. And I put more attention there and less attention on that rope around my neck that I'm pulling against, right? Yeah, the other thing I do is I put up my hand and ask for help all the time. Okay, I love getting help. Yeah. I have, as you know, we have a group of coaches. We like to meet once a week, but outside of that, I have lots of coaches and it's psychics and mystics and people that work in different ways. And I ask for help when I need it.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's very, very powerful. And also what you said before, I think that the delusions of the mind of what makes us happy, and that actually achieving something, or, like running away from something or having a job or whatever, are the things that don't make us happy. That's why I love to ask this question, because it's actually, what do you do to actually have this feeling of happiness right now, instead of, putting it in the future and connected to an event which might never happen, but how you allow yourself to feel
And
it.
even
So,
look what happens, like look at, I was getting all this positive input for all the great work I was doing, but I didn't feel happy. When I first was doing it, I thought, well, then I'll be happy if I do all this, then I'll be successful, then I'll be this, then I'll be that. Yeah. And actually you have to deny so much of yourself sometimes to achieve the appearance of something that you don't feel happy, and no amount of external validation will ever fill the void. It's really about bringing our attention back to ourselves, and even allowing ourselves to feel happy without accomplishing anything.
Very true. Yeah. Now my last question is, what was the happiest moment in your life?
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Well, you're kind of opening a can of worms, but I have two to share. One of the happiest moments of my life was when my son was born. It was just a dream come true. A dream come true. That time in my 20s when I was really dark and depressed, I really wanted children, but I was in a cynical punk rock crowd, and I was, a performer and a sound technician, and it's just a cynical asshole. And I felt the desire to get married and to have kids. I really wanted to have kids, but I suppressed it. I'm like, it's stupid. It's fucking stupid normies and, breeders and all that kind of crap. Right. But it was against the truth. That was not really true for me. And so when I really was able to own that and love that I wanted children, and love the idea, and love myself for loving it. Like I want to have kids. I like thinking about having kids. I like the feeling of thinking about having kids. I like myself for liking the feeling of wanting to have kids. I like that. I like the feeling of wanting to have kids, like really allowing myself to feel the joy and the pleasure of it. And when my son was born, it was just like, oh, yeah, that's the happiest moment. The other one I want to say is that there's a priming ritual that Tony has on YouTube. And the first part of the priming ritual, after some breathing, here's an interesting thing. Changing your physiology can change your state. So I find that breathing kind of changes my state enough. Maybe it calms my vagus nerve down or something, right? And my analytical mind kind of gets out of the way, that I can feel gratitude on a deeper level than if I just sit here and go, I feel grateful for, because sometimes you don't feel fucking grateful, and sometimes it's like, and even the word gratitude implies within it that you had pain. Well, I'm happy that I have a house because, this sucks, but I'm happy that I have a house to live in and a roof over my head. Of course I am, right? But it also carries the energy of something you don't like sometimes. Anyways, I was doing this priming ritual, and he said, go back in time and feel a time. I'm going to mimic Tony, and feel a time where you felt a lot of gratitude. And I had this memory of being born, and I felt my soul's gratitude for this life. And I was filled with such an incredible feeling of happiness. Just so much gratitude and happiness to be born. And that gift of life is so powerful. And, that's what the one thing I'd love to leave with your listeners is that it's so easy for us to get lost in the circumstances, the conditions of our life, and seeing them as absolute and seeing them as real or problems, and forgetting that life is a real gift, that we are aspects of the Creator creating every moment. And what a delightful privilege that is, to be, the whole world only exists in you. The world that you see, perceive, live, feel, the relationships as you see, live, feel them, you're creating those. You're an expansive creator. And if you're not feeling that connection to the joy of life, to the gift of life, to the wonder of life, to the amazing expanse of life, then do what I do. Put up your fucking hand and ask for help. to be blunt.
Nice.
It's time. And honestly, you deserve it. You really do.
Yeah.
When you feel something different, your behavior will change after. We always put the cart before the horse. We got to change this and do that, then I'll have that, then I'll be this. But all doing emanates from a state of being. So get some help and improve your state of being, and life will be way more pleasurable and fun and expansive for you.
Thank you. Also, you mentioned before you read a couple of books and you would read the same page over and over again. So very quickly, name one or two or three of these books you would recommend.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard wrote a lot of short books. I really enjoy, right now, one that I'm reading over and over and over again is The Power of Prayer. Now, it's interesting because Neville Goddard's a mystic, so he has a very mystical kind of interpretation of say, biblical things. I'm not a Christian. I haven't studied the Bible. I was born a Christian, but we weren't religious. The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard is also exceptional. There's moments in those books where literally, again, I'll read one concept about forgiveness, what forgiveness really means. And it's so marvelous that I'll read it again at lunch. I'll read it again before I go to bed, and I'll close my eyes and meditate on that feeling of forgiveness, what that really means. And it's so spectacular. So Neville Goddard, Power of Awareness, The Power of Prayer, really any of them I think are fantastic. I haven't read anything by him that I thought, oh, this sucks. Also, I listen on Audible, right? I like to listen. Another great one, actually, that's more kind of like on the more practical side but still interesting in the manifestation world, is a book by Price Pritchett, and it's called U Squared, and you can get it for about $10. And Bob Proctor recommended it to me, but he said, ruminate on it, just read it slowly. But actually, when I first bought it, I read the whole book every day for about 10 days in a row. Because every time I just read through the book, because I have a habit of like wanting to write everything down and underline everything, and that's about control. And I'm like, what happens if I just let go? Because I can't remember everything in the world forever, right? So what happens if I let go and just allow myself to experience and feel it? I'd breeze through it and I'd have like 8 or 10 ideas about things, like new ideas about things that I could do, a way I could help a client, something I could do for the business. Just fantastic. So Price Pritchett, U Squared, beautiful book. Very short, nice. $10. Yeah, great book.
Great. I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for everything, Matt. That was so lovely chatting with you. And
thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And I wish you all the best. Keep doing what you're doing, please. Keep helping people and inspiring people.
Yeah.
And thank
Wonderful. You. Okay. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and you took a lot away for yourself. I will put all the links in the show notes if you want to learn more about NLP, Reiki, Tony Robbins, the 6 Human Needs. I will link the test for you and also the priming exercise Matt described. I will also link all the books and all the contact details so you can get in touch with Matt over Facebook, Instagram, or book a session with him. So I will put all the links in the show notes for you. Also, if you like the podcast, please share it. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you listening and sharing and reading your comments, your reviews, and it makes me truly, truly happy. Please subscribe so you don't miss the next episode and share with your friends. You can also subscribe to my newsletter on my website, happiness-safari.com, or you can connect with me on Instagram and share your thoughts under this post. A lovely quote Matt shared was, wherever you go, you are. And I really love that. And I think it's so true. So the biggest message from him is, get help, work on yourself if you want more, not just when you're struggling, but also when you just want more love, more awareness, more compassion, more freedom, whatever it is you want more of in your life. Try to go for it and get it and get some help to achieve the things you truly want to achieve. I wish you a wonderful day wherever in the world you are. Until next week, love and